digitalization, broadband, and surveying. It's often the case that it is changing. And I've been the head of this office for 12 years, and I went in retirement in 2008. And afterwards, I to be not only retired, I thought it is good to give my experiences further to other countries, not for money, it was for free. And I have been in several countries. In first one was in China, in the west province of Xinjiang, in Ethiopia, and Kosovo several times, and there we met us. And afterwards, Kosovo, in Rwanda, in Mongolia, in Cambodia, and last year, it was my last experience in Indonesia. The main task has been Kataster, land surveying, and spatial data infrastructure. This is a very interesting field containing the Kataster. But now I give you you can ask me more.
Professor, thanks a lot for speaking to Pax Europiana. You're a very special person because you have been running the Bavarian Kataster agency for over 13 years as a director general, as a CEO. And then you devoted your life also to spread this news and to train other land registers in Mongolia and in Kosovo. Maybe you can share some of your experience of the interesting missions. You were in Mongolia, I understand, Kosovo, maybe first Mongolia. What was your impression? What was the challenge?
Mongolia was a very interesting experience because I have been 2 times in Mongolia. And I have to tell you something about these missions. We have an organization in Germany called Senior Expert Service. It means that persons like me can be registered in this organization. It is not a state organization. It is from the economy more. And it is for free, and you get not money for this. And in Mongolia, I've been the first time to give advices to the administration for Kataster.
Yes, I hear you. Professor, there was a lower connection for some moment, but please continue.
A workshop in the Mongolian desert, in a youth camp there.
Even in the youth, you made a workshop. Interesting.
You make a workshop, and I have been totally alone. I thought, how can I organize this? What is with the language? And I knew that most of the people cannot speak English, not German, maybe 1 or 2 or not more. So it was, the only way was to do it in Mongolian language. But I cannot speak, I cannot speak Mongolian. I have had the idea to organize it on a paper in English and to look for somebody who is able to speak English and to take my ideas how to organize the workshop and to do it in Mongolian language. And I thought, I was afraid if this will be possible. It was possible. And it was the first time for 50 people outside in the desert for 3 days to come together, because first they have been all the time alone and not together, and it was possible, and I was astonished, because first I thought they will ride horses or do something. No, they worked really very, very effective, because it was the first time for them to see we can do something. First, we have had some speeches from me about our Kataster in Germany, but I always said, it is a model. You have not to follow this model. This model, it is an idea. You have to look for your own way. And this is the idea of this workshop. And first, I've been, if it will work or not, but it was not clear for me. It was astonishing how hard they worked until the evening with papers and so on. By the way, it was a little bit the idea of my stay in Kosovo. You remember, Günther?
Yes.
We have had also a workshop in Macedonia. Mm-hmm. Maybe you remember.
Yes, absolutely.
And this was the idea to transfer this in other countries. And I've done the same last year in Indonesia. It works because, in my opinion, it is a danger that somebody is coming from outside to take ideas from Germany, from European, and to give these ideas further and to do this or not. And they are starting in a certain field, and when they will go back, it is finished. In my idea, the only way is to initialize the idea and to let them do it. And another way is to invite young people to follow lessons in Germany and so on, and to bring it back to their countries, but always in the same way. By the way, I have met a student in Indonesia, and she is now in Vienna.
You helped her to come to Vienna to study? Very good.
So, please.
Professor, let me ask you about Kosovo and Albania, Macedonia. You have been also very active to help to build up the Kataster agencies there. What is your experience there?
Kosovo, Macedonia, and Albania is a very special place, because they have already something in the background. It is not totally new for the people in this country to start with this Kataster and topography and so on. But the problem there is, because of the wars there, that a lot of documents are not available. They are still in Serbia or somewhere else, and a certain time it was not possible to follow the way. So it was very unclear who is the owner and so on. And this is a very difficult way. But I thought that they are able, very intelligent persons there, and it needs time. It needs time, but I'm almost sure that they will find their way there.
So you have very extensive experience from Mongolia, from Indonesia, Kosovo, Albania, Macedonia, and obviously always based on your experience as the CEO of the Bavarian Kataster Agency. Let me now ask you, Professor, why we need a Kataster? Why it is so important?
Why it is important? Yes, it is a very good question. I can start with the idea that each state, country, has three pillars. It is the surface of the country with the borderline outside. It is the citizens, people, and law, because people only can live in a country. It doesn't. It is not depending on the system. If it is a democracy or a dictator or whatever, you need an organization to and with administration to give rules for the people, what has to be done, what has to be avoided, and how can you construct roads and so on. So you need a register for the administration. Where are the parcels? Where are the owners? Or what is about the tenure of the parcels? This is very important, and that is why you need a register of the parcels of land.
So
if you don't have this parcel, it is not possible to have a administration. If you don't have it, you will have corruption and all kind of things. You need papers about that. What is here? Who is the owner? Who is responsible for this and that? And what is the kind of each parcel? Is it a lake? Is it a forest? It is acre and so on. This is a must. Without this bottom in the white field, this bottom, you cannot. It is not possible to have a administration.
So you
need this, and now the question maybe is, what must be the content of the Kataster? Maybe.
So it is the fundament of the state?
Yeah, it is fundamental. It is fundamental. In each state, it doesn't. It is not a question if it's only for democracy and so on. It is sure democracy. Everybody will like to have it, but each state must have this. If not, you have the chaos and corruption and all kind of things. So you need this register to see what has to be governed. Where are the parcels? Where are the owners? The Kataster means you have to detect the parcels with the content of the surface, the limits, the owner, and which is the kind, what kind of parcel is it? Lake, forest, acre, and so on. And if you have this, you can do a lot of things. For example, taxes.
Taxes is very important. I think it's one of
the very important.
Kataster has developed.
And excuse me.
Why the Kataster has developed is taxation. So land taxation is one of the reasons historically why there is a Kataster.
Historically, is in the Bavaria, it is very interesting. The starting point was to collect the taxes, but taxes in a very clear way, because before it was not clear at all, because you have not had Kataster, and everybody had to pay what has been demanded. And the starting point of the state of Bavaria up after the Napoleon it was the first administration to create a Kataster field. and to measure all parcels of the land, to register it, and to take the taxes.
That's why also it's at the Ministry of Finance in your state.
Yes. We still are depending to the Ministry of Finance because of these historical reasons. In Germany, I have not mentioned this. Germany is a very interesting place because we have 16 Länder states, and each state is independent in this field. And in Bavaria, we have our ministries, and the Ministry of Finance is head of our administration. In other states, this is often the Ministry of Interior, sometimes in a Ministry of Environment and Economy. It's quite different. And when you go in other countries, it is also different. For example, in France, it is also the Ministry of Finance. But there it is only because it's only for the taxes. In Germany, it has changed. First, it was only for the taxes. But the system, this is very interesting to know, has changed to another system. The first, it was the register for taxes, ground taxes. But the people remarked that this register is also possible for mortgages. When the register is here, you can use it not only for taxes, you can register your mortgages here. And afterwards, it went to a register of property. It was a development. Starting point was taxes. The next step was mortgages. And the next step was property. And now the last step is to expand it to a broad way of spatial data infrastructure. We can speak about this after that.
Absolutely. It's an important aspect to have modern administration.
These are the steps of developing.
But let me first discuss about public administration. Is it in Germany, in Bavaria, every land plot is clear? And also that is for the administration of the people in a sense. Everybody has addresses, can be clearly identified where he lives. Is this somehow the way of public administration in Bavaria?
This is very important to know that you must have an address system. For us, it's very clear. We do not ask anymore because everybody is registered where he is living. And when you have the Kataster system, you can also detect where really he is living. We have this address system. This is a very important question in other countries. This is not, for example, in Mongolia and in Ethiopia, you have not the address system, not the finished. In most countries of all over the world, you do not have this. And if you don't have this, it is difficult to collect the taxes and so on.
It's also
this is part of the Kataster, the address system.
And also for the rule of law, when you, for example, want as a state to communicate by letter with somebody, with some of your citizens, a clearly identifiable address where you can send a letter, for example, from the court or from the police to a specific person at a specific place.
Here in Germany, it's so clear that you don't ask about this, but I know in other countries, it is not clear at all. So it is a very fundamental question to start with an address system. I remember in Ethiopia, when the addresses are like a description, you have to go to this or that person, so you will get the answer. You have to drive here and there to the rest, and when you see a building yellow or something like this, then because it's not clear. And it is a hard work for states to start with this, but it is very, very important.
In Kosovo, I remember at the time when you were there, it was the moment to roll out the address register to connect land parcels with addresses exactly.
Yes,
And then to
yes.
have identifiable persons and lands and addresses.
Yes,
First time in history.
yes. This is very important. A Kataster system without an address system, it is possible, but it is not a clear system. You can have a parcel register with numbers, with the content of the surface and kind of this, but who is the owner? You can have, it is Gunter Nagel, but where do he live?
So how is the link between the Kataster and the courts in Bavaria, for example? Do they work together?
The court.
The court, yeah, the court.
I cannot understand the question. Which field of court for which?
In some countries, the land register is kept at the court, for example.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, land register.
When, for example, some criminal act is happening, then the land the court can confiscate, for example, the land of a criminal when there is a case or something like this. Yeah. So I'm asking because the Kataster is the rule of law, how it is important for the police and for the justice system.
In Germany, not only Bavaria, in Germany, we have the land register. And the part of this land register is the Kataster. Kataster is more or less the technical part of the land register. And the land register, we have the so-called Grundbuch. It is more the juridical. Who is the owner? What is about the mortgages and restrictions and so on. And the Kataster is the technical part. Surface, limits and so on. And this Grundbuch, land register, is principally open for everybody. This is very important. But there are restrictions. Not everybody can have a look. Courts, sure, they can. Notaries can do it. And when I'm owner, for example, of a parcel, I can have a look who is my neighbor and so on. But I cannot see which parcels are belonging, are property, for example, for Miss Merkel. This is not possible. I cannot. Not everybody can have a look at everything. But principally, yes. Principally, it is open and you can see it. In Austria, for example, I know it. Everybody can have a look to the whole. Here in Germany, we have a different restriction for this. We have in German language the expression öffentliches Interesse. It is more a juridical way. Not everybody can have a look to everything, but principally, yes.
That's more about the data protection and
yes.
publicity. But I would be interested in the cooperation between the different entities of the states. Can the police or other ministries, can they access the data and can they work with it? The interstate cooperation.
They can.
That's very important, I think, for public administration.
This is very important. The principle is that the data is open. Principally, it is open, but there are restrictions for some fields. Police can have a look, notary can have a look, and so on.
Very good. So the Kataster is the fundament of the state. Let me then
discuss. I say it is the bottom in the wide field it is the bottom of the administration.
Absolutely, it's like the rock the rock on which the
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me talk about and ask you about the question of the finance sector, because in many countries the interest rates are very high. And do you see a connection with the interest rates and the land register, the Kataster?
There's a big connection, and you're right. That in many countries interest rates are very high. Why are they very high? It is very clear for me. The bank give the money to somebody only when they can be sure that they will get back the money. And if the bank see that you are the owner and you are registered in this open book, then it is much more easy to give money to note the mortgage in this register. So if the person cannot pay anymore the interest rates, so it can be what is the expression for Enteignung? It is
expropriation.
Expropriated, and afterwards I will get the money back. So it is a very big.
You mean repossession, that the bank can take the house where it has to lend a mortgage against, yeah?
Yes, and so in Germany, for example, it is very low. In the moment, I'm not sure, 1%, for example.
So you
very low, because for the bank it is no risk. Sure, it is a risk. The bank has to look how is the worth of this land parcel. They cannot give millions to somebody with a very, very small parcel, for example. They will have a look. It is in Munich or also it is big, 1,000 square meters. The worth will be 1 million. So they will not give the whole 1 million, maybe 700,000, not more, because. But for this 700,000, the interest rate is very low here. And in other countries, I'm remarked in Ethiopia and so on, it is very, very high because the bank do not have security.
And in Germany, the bank can be sure that the property rights are guaranteed by the state or by the Kataster?
The property is when the property is registered in the Grundbuch, in the land register, it is almost sure. It is almost sure.
And do you see the banking sector like the sister of the Kataster, or it's like connected with the land register in a sense that once the
bank can the bank can have a look to the register, sure. Because it's open. If somebody, you or me, are coming, I will buy, for example, a certain parcel with a house on it, and I will go to the bank. I will buy this parcel with this house and so on, and the bank will have a look afterwards in the Grundbuch, land register, sure, to see what is it. Maybe they will have a look outside. Where is this house? Maybe it is a very old house and so on. They will have a look to see what will be the worth of this, the value of this house. And so afterwards, they will give you the money. Normally, not the maximum. Normally a little bit lower. So normally the new property should have a certain amount from other side, from father or something.
So property, the Kataster and the interest rates are very connected in your view?
Sure.
And the success
very connected.
The success and stability of the banking sector and the working Kataster are also very important.
Exactly. Very, yeah.
Let me ask you, what is about the government finances? Yeah? What is happening when, for example, a property owner in Germany is not paying the property tax? Will it be registered in the Kataster?
No, it will not be registered in the Kataster. It's not very clear. First, so I will send a letter. You have to pay the taxes. I have not paid the taxes. It can be the last result can be expropriation.
Because in Austria, we have the system that you have a liability Kataster. The moment you don't pay your property tax, it's also written into your property on the negative side.
This is a very good system. I do not know it exactly, but this is not possible like this.
Mhm.
We have the so-called Gerichtsvollzieher. I do not know in English what it is.
The court-appointed debt executioner.
Yes, and they have different ways to come to the money. The last way is the expropriation of the parcel.
Yeah, in Austria, we do it like this, that you have basically here the asset and here the liabilities. And when you don't pay, you get it added up.
Yeah, it is not directly like this. In the end of the process is the same.
But also the court and the public finances and the Kataster are very much connected for the history of property tax.
Sure.
Let me ask you also about the question of property rights first. Yeah? Do you think that in a society with a working Kataster has less conflicts in the society? And did you experience also problems with fights and ownership rights in Mongolia, Kosovo, some countries? And do you recommend a Kataster also for a more peaceful conflict settlement in a society?
It is like this. In a lot of countries, I come, for example, to the country of Ethiopia. It was very interesting for me to see how it works there. And Ethiopia is only a model for a lot of other countries. The people normally outside living say, they know they are living in a certain place. Yes, they know it. And when you ask them, are your limits? Maybe they can ask where the dogs are starting to bark. This is my, but they are not registered. And the big problem in this country is that some investors are coming from China or from other countries, and they are buying a very big place and they do not ask who is living there. They do not ask. They ask it. So maybe they let some living there, but for them it is a place for investment, and maybe some years later they will construct a firm or something, and they will say, my dear person with your family, you have to go out. And so you have conflicts when you cannot be sure that I'm really the owner of this parcel. And if this ownership is not protected by the state, because it's very interesting when you are thinking about why can I, or maybe you, dear Günther, say, I'm here in Germany, the owner of this part of land. Why can I say this? This is not so clear, the answer. The answer is I can say it because the state where I'm living guarantees me that is mine. Here, in the place where I say it's mine. And if somebody come, say, no, it is not yours. It is not. It is a place of my uncle or something else. This can be the case in Ethiopia or somewhere. Here I can say, no, it is not my uncle. Please have a look to the land register, and then you will see who is the owner. And if he continues to say, no, it's my uncle, it is my uncle, you can say to the police, or you can go to the court, and there is no chance for another person when you are registered. This is very interesting in Austria, in Germany, but in not so much countries, that this person who is registered in the land register, he is the guaranteed or the ownership. Only when registered. If not registered, or another person is registered, you have no chance. The person who is registered in the land register, he is the owner. It is very interesting to know when I'm buying another parcel. I will go to the notary. The notary will make a contract between both the owner and the new. I will pay the fee, the price for this, but I'm still not the owner. Not the owner, and when I have signed the contract, I'm the owner when I'm registered, in the moment when I'm registered in the register book. So it's a very, very clear system. Complicated a little bit, but very, very clear. Very clear. And even, this is very important to know, even if there would be a fault in the land register book, you can be sure, another, that what is written, this is right, even if there is a fault. This is a very interesting, but there are faults sometimes. Normally it is not, it is more theory.
So you think Kataster is very important also for the human rights of the people, because they are
very
by the state.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely sure. Absolutely.
So let me ask you also about the technical issues. Is it important to be very accurate? And is the science of geodesy important, the accuracy of a Kataster?
I can say yes, because you have always the question, not so much in the rural area, where is the limit? From which line what is the end of my property? Is it a strip of 2-3 meters, or is it very small? The answer is very clear. It should be very, very short, very small. And when it should be very small, here in Bavaria, we have a high precision of some centimeter. It is relatively clear. And if it is registered in a geodetic system, so it is clear.
And why does it matter so much to have clarity between the owners, between the parcels?
Once again, I have not.
Why is it so important to have clarity and accuracy?
Yeah, it is for neighborship, and it's for construction and so on. If it's not so clear, you have problems, discussions with the other, and process to the court and so on. It exists. We still, for example, in Bavaria, we have in some fields, for example, in the mountain area, we have not totally clear limits, because the first measurement was in a graphical way, and it was not so accurate 200 years ago. There are still some places in the mountain areas where it is not so important, but in the urban area, mostly we have very clear limits. This is important. And the question is, sure, when there are countries to start, it's a long way to detect every limit of every partner. It's a process for a long time, even here in Bavaria, also in Austria. You have places that are not so important in the mountain area and in forest and so on, with limits not so clear. Still. But more and more, we have measurements and so on.
Today, the technology has moved on, and there is a lot of now geoportal, it's called, a lot of information systems overlying and also visible on the websites. Can you describe now this modern way of doing a geoportal?
Yes, this is a very interesting field. First, we have spoken about Kataster. Kataster, once again, it is the surface of the parcels with the owner, the building, and so on, limits, and so on. But in the state, you have a lot of other information. For example, the water pipes, electricity, and also fields like environment, protected areas or protected monuments. You have a lot of information, and this information are depending to other organizations outside, for example, protected monuments. They have their own information system about this information protected monuments. For example, to take only one of these. Protected monuments are also depending to the places where they are existing. And so you have lot of information, geo-information, with of others, I say, stakeholders. And normally in the past, the other information, they took the cadastral map and put their information on this cadastral map, because then they needed a map. And the idea now is to put all this information together to one geo-information, spatial data infrastructure, a new word. And the idea is to connect the data via internet in a virtual way. It was always the idea first to create a very big new organization to collect all this information together no, this is not not the right way. Today, you have the cadastral and geodetic network, one homogeneous geodetic network, and the other administration have to put their information to the same system, but the information will stay on the same place. They only come together, not a big organization. The big organization is a virtual organization, not a real. This is a new way.
So in a government, many institutions are collecting data about land. For example, agriculture, environment, transport ministry, some municipalities, and they all feed the data into one geoportal.
Their information for what they are responsible. Only.
So not one central data collection, but all the line ministries working on their stuff, but making it interoperable and visible.
Sure, like this. And there is not a big, there is today in Bavaria, not only in Bavaria, there is not a big boss on the head. The big boss is the internet.
Do you think this makes administration much more efficient to have such a database?
Sure, if it's running, yes. But this is also a long way. I remember in my time, it was 20 years ago, it was a real difficult process to convince the other, I say once again, stakeholders to follow this way. Why was it so difficult? They have been afraid that they will lose something. There is a big boss to take over the data to take over the data, and they have no more influence. It was a very difficult way to convince the other. No, you will not lose something. You will be still the head of your data. Your data mean electricity, water pipe, or whatever it is. But you will be a winner because you have also the possibility to have a look to other information, maybe the electricity and so on and so on. This is a very, I have seen it last year in Indonesia. Exactly, this was the discussion. And I felt that the first idea always is to collect all data to a very big organization. No, you must convince the other. No, it is not a big organization. You are the head of your data. Still, no influence from the other, but it will be connected via internet. And here in Germany, in Bavaria, not only in Bavaria, in other, it is working very good, and the other one say, see, we are also winner. Everybody is winner.
And how many institutions from the different side of the government are feeding their data into such a modern geoportal?
I cannot tell you a clear answer. Principally, every. For take the school sector. Why it is interesting for also the school sector to know where are the people, the young people living. Where are they living? The family, to see people in this place are connected to this school and so on. You have in administration almost each information is connected to a local place. You can see every information, not all, but most of the information are connected to a local place. And so it is a must to connect. And today we always are speaking about digitalization. What does it mean? This expression digitalization, I do not like it so much, because you take this expression and you do not really know this has something to do with my computer, sure, but digitalization is much more to handle this information. And in this field, the Kataster has a kernel. It is a kernel of
a cornerstone,
like a spider in the spider web. not like a head. Be aware, it is not like a head, but it is possible to connect it.
Can modern digitalization of public services work without a working Kataster?
No, but this is really not the question. It is not the question. It is a must to know who is the owner, where are the parcels. This is a fundamental part, and one of the fundamental parts is also to deliver the geodetic network, to have the same network. This is very important, because if it's not the same network, you have difficulties with the different information to connect the other, to make your overlay.
So some countries.
This is a must.
That's absolutely essential for digitalization, the Kataster.
So the Kataster, in my mind, is like the spider and the spider net work. It is not the head, but it must also be the place to come for this coming together, to
Professor,
convince the other, to convince us for this coming together, to have a task force and so on.
some countries in Albania, for example, but also I'm sure Indonesia, make a rather chaotic urban planning impression. The cities are not well planned. Do you think there is a connection between urban planning and the Kataster?
Sure. Not only Kataster, in the bigger field of spatial data infrastructure. And Kataster is a very important part of it. It is the whole field of geoinformation or spatial data infrastructure. It is not only the Kataster. It is not only the Kataster. Kataster is maybe the kernel or the spider and the spider network, but you have to take the whole network for planning. Because when you are planning something, you must know, you must know who is the owner, where are the parcels, which kind of place is it, water or whatever it is. But you also have to know where are the cables for electricity and environment restriction and. So it is a whole. The question, is it the Kataster? No, it is not the Kataster alone. It is a whole. It is a whole for
So
planning.
For modern urban planning, the Kataster is very important.
Sure. It is, but it is not only the Kataster. Not only.
Professor, let me ask you about construction, because some countries have very chaotic construction process, and there's also a lot of corruption happening in construction. And some countries have digital construction permit, like Macedonia, for example. And you know, how do you think that Kataster and construction permitting is also connected?
Sure. Construction, sure, it is a very it is clear. It is a must to know who is the owner and what is the surface. Sure, but not, once again, not alone. You have a lot of other very important information around electricity, water pipe, and.
In many countries in the developing world, you have a lot of informal buildings and buildings built without construction permits or other informality in that sector. Do you think there's a connection between a working Kataster and that?
Sure. But this is also not directly a question of not directly. You need it. Not directly. You must have a administration who looks about that what is going on. Where is our construction? It is police and municipality and so on. For example, in Austria or in Germany, it is almost impossible to construct a house somewhere under the Starnberger See or something like that. It is impossible because somebody will come to tell it to the municipality and they will have a look, and it is almost not possible.
Without a permit?
Yeah, you need the permit, yes. And without permit, here in our countries, in Austria the same, it is almost impossible today. But you're right. In other countries, this is very usual.
This creates many problems also with urban planning, but also with economic development, because you build a house informally without a permit, and then maybe the government can destroy it, or can also, you have problems to get a mortgage against this house or to sell it in the future when you want to change something. So what's your recommendation to have a very digital construction permit process in all countries?
Yeah, sure. In the future, it must be a digital process. Sure, sure. Today, it's not clear enough. Here in Germany, still we have a lot of papers. We are in the digitalization. We are not so far in front. It's not the case, but in the future, it will be not a paper, not more a paper. It will be a in a digital way. More and more, but still, this is a problem in Germany. Not only this is a problem that we are still behind in some way. The other countries, I felt it in Indonesia last year. I felt it in Indonesia. So in some ways, they are in advance.
In which way?
Because they can take already the next hurdle. And we still are connected to our papers and to the stamp and so on. It is like this.
In Indonesia, they
No,
were.
here we are in Central Europe. We are not so far in front. And it can be that the other countries überholen what is.
They will overtake the digital.
Overtake, yes. I felt it. In Indonesia, it was very astonishing for me to see already the young people and to see a lot of things how it works so fast. We cannot. It is astonishing. It's astonishing.
You think that Germany has?
For example, I went to the I went to the door and my print of the what was it enough? The door opened. I can a lot of things because I can already be open for these new ways, and we are still very connected to papers and once again.
Yeah, in the past it worked very well, and it works very well, but
yeah,
is moving ahead.
But to change the system, it is difficult.
Professor, let me ask you one of the challenges, because also in Indonesia and in Mongolia and in Kosovo, there are a lot of buildings, but it's a problem to use them as a mortgage, as a collateral for economic development when you go to the bank. And this is a major hurdle for economic development because you cannot get credit with these houses because they are not registered. What's your recommendation?
The recommendation is to start or to this Kataster system, sure, to create a land register book where you can be registered, and then you have all these advantages for mortgages. For the houses, it is even not so difficult because if you have a real house, it is clear where it is. And the bank can see the house and can give you the mortgage if it's sure that you are the owner of the house.
And
it is much more difficult in the rural area because it is not so clear where it is a limit and so on.
And with apartments, it's more complicated, or it should be also easy?
It's the same.
The same.
Apartment principally is in this context is not so difficult because when you have the building, you can describe the apartment, fourth floor, door right, and surface. You can describe it. It is not so much a question of measurement.
In Macedonia, they're saying they are the world best in digital construction permits. Would you say they are the best in the world? Macedonia.
I've been in Macedonia and I saw this country, as I told you, in Indonesia. In some ways, they are in advance because they have not this ballast of history. They can start in the new already starting the new system. And we in our regions, it is not so easy to start so fast.
Professor, on the question of transparency, in the Macedonian Kataster Agency, you can see all the owners of all the land plots and all the apartments easily everywhere, online, in the internet. Some countries have chosen very big transparency and other countries don't have the same tradition. What do you think is better, to have transparency or less?
I think it is much better to have transparency and to open it. I'm in Austria, for example. It is the best way to open it,
so that everybody can see who is the owner, because that's more transparent and gives the clarity, and you can.
It is more transparent. I think yes.
You think that
here in Germany we don't have it. We have this data protection, and I can tell you, sometimes this data protection is überbewertet. What is
too much focus on data protection?
Yes, too much.
Because
and too much protection can be the worst case. Not too much protection. I'm convinced if somebody see for something, likes to come to information, it is not so difficult. So it is the better way to open it.
Also for the society.
Too much protection is not good.
Clarity and transparency in the Kataster is very good for a society. Very important. Yeah, Professor, about economic development, you think when should a society start with a Kataster development?
Gunter, I have not.
About when to start a society, when should it start with Kataster development? At the beginning, or is it a complicated thing for later?
As early as possible.
In the development world is a bit of a debate if all this land discussion is a bit boring for some of the development agencies. Yeah, do you think it's a very important pillar of development support or not?
It's important. It is important. Very important.
It's fundamental for economic development.
Kataster is fundamental. And I can tell you, I come back to my experiences in the countries, Mongolia, Ethiopia, and so on. I learned in this time of retirement more, in some cases, than in my professional time. What is the value of the data of Kataster? Here in Germany, the same in Austria. When you ask people, can you tell me something about Kataster? Are you owner of a place? Maybe he will say yes. Why can you say you are? Because I'm living here. Because I'm registered in maybe in the Grundbuch, land register. Here it is not. It is so clear that you don't think something about. But when you are coming like me in my retirement to Ethiopia, to Kosovo, to Indonesia, and so on, you feel what does it mean for us. I've been always asked, what are you doing? Everything is measured. Why are you here? Because it's so clear, but it is not clear at all. And if it is not, if you don't have this this Kataster and this wide field of spatial data infrastructure. You have a very big field for corruption. And people, I can tell you something other, and people on the level of these different countries, they are not so interested to have a clear system of Kataster and so on, because it's much more easy to take the money from other side when it is unclear. So it is fundamental and very, very important. And the problem here in Central Europe is that politicians, so even are not, for them, it is not so clear to think in this way. Why? Because it's so clear that you are not more thinking about it because it's here. And they do not feel what is behind, what is the value of this. That what I have remarked in the outside, how they are struggling, because it is a long way to start such a system. But there is no other way. It is a must. It is not a must, but you can, when you do not this, you have your corruption and whatever. Those are working.
You mean that when there is no working Kataster, there is a lot of corruption in developing countries?
Yes. I'm convinced. I'm totally convinced. Totally.
Because if there's no
when you see to your papers, you every time you read in this or that country corruption, and you have to finish. So I have to finish with the corruption, make a law that corruption is punished, and so no, this is not the way. Corruption only is when you have clear way of that what is in the country. Where is the bottom? Kataster is a fundamental thing.
So Kataster
This is the problem. You cannot directly see the Kataster. You cannot directly see. You can see a new bridge, a new airport, or something. You can see it. But Kataster, we have to pay money for paper and so on. This is not clear. And the politician cannot say, let's cannot have a sister to do something. This is the problem. We in Germany almost forgotten when we come together to propose. That's the first thing Chancellor Kohl said. In a few years we will have new places and flowering and so on. No, it was not possible because the Kataster was not here. Investment was not possible. So it is fundamental. The question is how to start, in which steps. The problem of the countries where I've been, mostly they realized it is a must to start. How can they do it? There are a lot of consulting firms. They come to this country. They have beautiful papers to say you have to do. And the people say, yes, yeah, we need this. Please start. They start in a certain place. Afterwards, they disappear, and it is finished. So, this is not easy, but it is possible.
So what's your recommendation how to start a Kataster system in a developing country?
This depends on what is here. You have different, I think there is even no place all over the world where you do not have anything. This would be very beautiful place when there is nothing at all. So you can start. normally there are papers and so on from the past. It depends. So we cannot give you a clear answer. You must make an inventory. What is
Inventory.
inventory? You have to make an inventory, and you have to start with one of the possibilities to make to do it by area imagery, remote sensing, because in the aerial photo you in a lot of feeds you can see the limits, bushes or hedges or something, and you can already draw places for the first step, because the best way to measure each parcel, it is a long and hard way. It would be the best, but it is almost impossible to do it from one day to the other. Even if you would have money enough, it is almost impossible to do it in a short way. So you have to step by step to start with a system not so exactly, and to make it better step by step, as we do it even in Austria or in Germany, in Bavaria. The accuracy is augmented step by step.
Professor, let me ask you about environmental protection and climate change and the Kataster. Do you think it's important connection to have clarity in Kataster data, also to ensure the Earth, and also to have climate?
I think Kataster itself is not so helpful for this. Kataster for this environment. It is part of, you have a lot of other influences, wind and atmosphere and temperature and so on. And you have administration to do this. And this administration are part of this whole spatial data infrastructure. So it is not directly a question of Kataster.
So that's the only thing the Kataster cannot solve.
No, not the Kataster, not directly. So I cannot have an idea that the Kataster. No, the Kataster is in this case not the question. It is even a difficult. You must be careful to let the Kataster as a special register for special things. Property, surface of the parcel, and quality of the parcel means which kind of bottom and so on. Not more. And the other information come from other side to this whole. So the Kataster directly is not so helpful. Helpful because the buildings are registered. Maybe they have an influence because of the chimney, or the roofs. The roofs are part of the Kataster, and the side of the Neigung, what is the Neigung of the roofs to the sun, can be interesting. This, yes, there are ideas to take the Kataster to see which roof is able to collect for the sun collecting. Yes. Some places, yes.
So the Kataster as the fundament of the state, important for the financial market, for the banking sector, and also for human rights and property rights to have clarity, and also technically to be the public backbone of Geoportal in order to have all the administration feeding in accurate data. It's a huge thing, actually. It's very important.
Yes, totally, yes. Yes.
So when you think, when the question is always in a development country, is it important or not? You would opt for the Kataster to be one of the key priorities for economic and society development and for good governance.
Only yes. Yes.
Very good. Tell me a little bit, when we close now, some of your interesting experiences in Kosovo or Macedonia, what you liked very much, or what was in Mongolia, Indonesia, maybe some background stories of you sitting in the yurte discussing the Kataster.
Outside of Kataster.
No, you can share some of your background stories. And would you recommend?
As I told you, it was very interesting. These missions, very, very interesting, because for me it was not to earn money. And this opens a wide field to the other, because they see there is somebody coming, old already. In other countries, old is good, and experiences and so on.
Age and
it is they are open for me. These experiences in Balkan, in Mongolia, and wherever I have been, very, very interesting. And for me, I saw that everywhere there are intelligent persons. We in Europe often we are arrogant to say these people in Africa and so on, they cannot work. No, not at all. They are very, very intelligent persons, and they are able to start. And we must be careful in the Western world to let them make and to give them the chance to do it themselves.
So you
to have a look to our background, but not for copying this, not for copying.
Too much paper and stamp.
Too much paper and stamp. We can learn, Günther, we can learn a lot of things.
That's it.
I can tell you, I do not know if we are on the end of the discussion.
Please share some. It's interesting, I think, because I want just to thank you as well, because you take the time to tell us all these stories, also your life experience, but also you have helped a lot of countries in Indonesia, Mongolia, Kosovo, Albania, and they really profited, and life for many thousands of people, maybe millions of people got better because better Kataster data. But a few people understand this connection, that prosperity depends on the fundament of a land register.
Yeah, it is like this.
Yes, it's like that.
It is like this.
So that's what I call Kataster.
So it's a very, very important thing, and I'm happy to discuss with somebody like you, who have not directly the background to having learned Kataster and technique and so, but you, Günther, you have understood this. This is not so clear to speak with somebody who has realized what it means, because it's really difficult to explain what this is. Papers and numbers and measurements, what is the meaning behind. You have understood it.
You have opened my eyes when you came to Kosovo and we were working together. And
it was a very
informative for me, because I understood that in Kosovo also they have a lot of houses and a lot of land. Every country has a lot of land and houses, but they are still poor because it's not in Kataster. It's not registered.
Because they have no Kataster, and the administration is for a good administration. You need Werkzeug. What is a Werkzeug?
Basis.
You need tools to do it, and one of the main tools is the Kataster. And if you don't have this tool, you have not a good administration. What appears, It is corruption. It is corruption. Outside of all this, it's so, for me, so clear, so clear.
Yeah.
You can, when we say here, we have to avoid corruption and so on. You must have real tools, and you will everywhere you will have corruption, but not so much, not so much.
When I was in Ukraine, also there was a major effort to have a high constitutional anti-corruption court. And I said, that's nice to have. But what is more important is to have Kataster, because with Kataster you can fight corruption. And this is so important. But everybody looked at me and said, Kataster, that's boring.
Yeah.
Because the
as I told you,
diplomats
in
don't
other countries,
Kataster.
for the president and so on, the Kataster is not so good, because it's not so easy to get money below the table and so on.
Because when the law, the Kataster doesn't protect your property rights, you have to be always a close friend to the politicians to find protection.
Exactly.
This is the logic, I think. In
Exactly.
Austria, I can be sure this is clear.
Exactly.
Secured. But in Kosovo,
I have shown this in Cambodia, very clear. The people on the president and so on, they have not a direct influence. They are big companies, and they give the money to the bosses on the political field, so that they can do whatever they want.
yeah, and then the people just get chased away from the land which they always had, but they didn't have any paper. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy.
It is like this.
Yeah, Kataster is really important. I keep on defending the Kataster as one of the fundaments of economic development, of the rule of law, in the fight against corruption and for good governance. You cannot build modern digital good governance without the fundament of the Kataster.
Not at all.
And also to work closely with the IT industry to offer all these opportunities of digitalization to the IT industry. And then suddenly on your app, on your phone, you can suddenly know all the things and drive and maneuver, and the modernity starts with the Kataster.
Exactly, but please, Günther, you have to see it in a wide context. Not only the Kataster is a part of this, but see it please in the wide field of spatial data infrastructure to connect the other data together via internet.
That's really
to convince the other to what is coming together.
You remember how difficult it was in Kosovo to connect one ministry with the next? It was really difficult, yeah?
Yeah, I remember. I remember.
Connected. Yeah, Professor, I have drafted a little, I will send you as well. It's my little favorite, yeah? It's the European cluster. I love this graph, the 4 lines. Yes, you have it. You remember, we really love it, yeah? The connection, government, financial markets, the property rights, the technical aspects, all together, and the whole government together, and suddenly the society and the economy works.
I like it very much. It is very, very clear to see this paper. Yeah.
It's good. I want to thank you now for your lifelong service for property rights in Bavaria, for the Kataster in Kosovo, Albania, Macedonia, in Indonesia, Mongolia, and in Ethiopia. And such an important work you have done. I'm very honored that you take time now to discuss via the podcast Pax Europiana about prosperity and about peace of mind as well. Because when there's clarity in the property rights, you can sleep easily in the night, and the success will be for sure, because you are secure, and that's so important.
Thank you so much, dear Günther. It was a pleasure for me to discuss with you. I wish you all the best, healthy, because we have not not spoken about Corona and so on. Corona is a problem also to follow this way in other countries, and so hopefully that will be more, once again possible in the next time. And I'm already old, but I'm still interested to do this because it's very, very interesting for me. I had already the first vaccination, and
very good, very good. So I wish you health, and also Corona is opportunity to work on Zoom. It's also one of the.
yes, thank you for, for this idea. Yes, this is also digitalization. Yes,
You see, it works quite well actually. We had a good discussion, a good interview.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gunter.
I will close it now.
I stay with pleasure. Will stay in contact. You can contact me if it possible. Yes, I will do it. I wish you all the best. Good healthy, good ideas, and to your family, to Alexander, my best greetings and wishes, and all the best.